SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
William Carey University Athletics.
Every sport you find exciting.
Crusader Talk. Crusader Talk.
And now.
This is Crusader Talk. Crusader Talk. We're covering everything William Carey University Athletics. From the field to the court and the diamond on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
And welcome, everyone, back to Crusader Talk. Glad you're with us here on a Monday. Caleb Hamill, Josh West with you. And we are thrilled to be talking everything William Carey Athletics, as we do every single Monday. And if it's not on Monday, it's pre-recorded on a Sunday night. And it's hardly ever, any different. Because you just have it appear on your podcast feed, and it's just nice like that. But we are live tonight. We're live, living color, even though we're in a radio platform. Colorful lingo, just not the kind that would get us fired by the FCC. Right?
Yeah.
The lines are blinking right now. I see them right now. They're blinking.
Ooh, the color.
They're already on to you.
You can talk about radio and color because everything used to be like NBC red and NBC blue. So it kind of started off in a color scheme, if you will, with radio. I digress. That's nothing about William Carey Athletics. You had a pretty good weekend, by the way.
Oh, it was a fun weekend. I played golf. Oh. Then I went and caught a doubleheader sweep for Carey. And then I went back and played more golf.
And then you got to watch some golf?
Watch the Masters.
In between all that?
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy. Again.
I almost sent out a group text to try to predict Jim Nance's call on the 18th green when it was kind of decided that Rory was going to
before or after the camera?
So about hole 15, stuff. I almost sent out a group text to the broadcasters group and was going to say repeat for Rory, a Rory repeat. But then I was going to be throwing out two of locks, and I was going to be taking up good choices. I said, no, I'm going to let it pass. And it was a rare repeat for Rory because there's only been 4. So I was really close. I wouldn't have won, but I wouldn't have
I was about to say, it could have gone up to Bocom and maybe gotten a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a side bet about Jim Nance and his final call. But nevertheless.
I have to ask, if you were playing 2 rounds of golf this past weekend, did you imagine yourself at the Masters while you were playing?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. No, I'm just trying to hit that ball. I'm just trying not to miss the ball.
At least he's honest.
Keep it between the trees, all right? That's all you got to do.
Between the trees.
Well, we got a lot to get to today, and obviously we can continue the conversations about golf, the Masters, keep that theme going, or recap baseball and softball, which both, by the way, had successful weeks and weekends.
Tennis, getting
the SSAC regular season title like we talked about back on Wednesday when they faced Loyola. So hats off to Coach Lux and all the girls and guys involved there. I didn't have We Are the Champions queued up. I should have had that ready. I dropped the ball on it. Maybe we'll get that a different segment or a different show. Hopefully that's not the last SSAC regular season title of the year because we've got more to come, we believe. But outside of the ball sports playing right now, big news dropped earlier this week.
Huge.
You hear this? It's the conclave. The papal smoke is rising into the air. It's turned white. That means one and only one thing. William Carey has found its new men's basketball coach. And he is a familiar face. You already have seen the things on Facebook and everything else. You already know it's PJ. Man, PJ, we were pulling for him. And we are so happy that he is going to be Carey's next head men's basketball coach. Couldn't happen to a better guy. And I think we got him on the phone. I believe so. Yes, Coach PJ, how are you, sir?
I'm here. Great. All is well. No complaints this way.
The neighborhood has just been smiling ear to ear every time I've come in. It just seems like the grass is greener, the flowers are blooming. It's not just the time of year. It's just the happiness in the air as you have been promoted. How much of a whirlwind has it been with people reaching out to you, congratulating you?
Well, almost overwhelming. I talked to my family members and my mom specifically. She told me that April, this springtime, it's the season of blessings. And, it's nothing short of a blessing, just to be a part of William Carey. Whether I got promoted or not, I love this location. I love everything about it that it has to offer. And so being named head coach, it's something that's hard to believe. You know, I've been a part of the program for a while, and we've gotten used to things around there. But eventually, you know, change was coming, and so just being able to be a part of that, being under Coach Knight, such a great guy. You know, a Hall of Famer as a coach, but you know that has nothing to do with how great of a guy he is. I've learned so much, and it's just an honor for me to be named head coach.
You know, Hebrews 12 says, "Run the race with endurance that's marked out for us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the source and perfecter of our faith." It feels like for you, it was a race of endurance. You know, coming through the time as a player and as an assistant, just kind of waiting in the wings, waiting for that opportunity as Coach Knight's assistant to take over. You endured a lot through JV basketball, being kind of the lead recruiter, and really helping out, especially this year with this team, as you kind of really got a varsity head coach job at times with Coach Knight on the DL. And for you, it really feels like you've reached a checkpoint in the race. It's not really a finish line because you're not done with your head coaching job yet. We hope that finish line is in the distant future. But how was that enduring time for you? And I don't want to make it sound like it was bad, but I'm wanting to say, how was that journey for you to get to this point?
Yeah. So when you think back, of course, you have to add up and just do the math on the years and the total amount of time that I've been there. That's the big picture. So you're talking about 10-plus years as assistant. The years fly by. You know, when you're in the middle of the grind, when you're in the middle of the season, you know, and then the off season you have the weights and the training and the recruiting, time just flies by. In the beginning, when I was, offered the assistant coaching job, I really had no idea what I was doing. I was a pretty good trainer. You know, I kind of grew into that as a player, helping some of my teammates, and kind of grew into that role of just being hands-on with training. That carried over from my graduate assistant and into that assistant coaching role. But as I got into it, I would say about that 5 to 6 year mark, I got a little bit more responsibility. I was trying different things with our JV guys and just throwing different schemes. We had a bunch of guys that developed and moved up and ended up being, a pretty big contribution to the varsity team. And so, just continuing on as it got into the later years, Coach Knight started trusting me more, which gave me a lot of confidence. Sometimes I was nervous, sometimes I was unsure, but I'm pretty sure he was as well. But I always tried to do my best to make things easier on him as well as Coach Burt. And it ended up, here I am, being one of the top candidates and eventually being named the head coach. So I guess it was all worth it.
Hey, PJ, we had a chance to run into each other on campus today. It was great to see you for the first time with the new title. And, one of the things that I've observed and, been privy to throughout conversations with you and Coach Knight is how iron sharpens iron and how you both had each other's backs and how, he might be sitting there in a game and going, "Hey, Coach, when are you going to switch defenses?" And there might be a time where he had to get onto a player and you had to go play good cop. And y'all complimented each other so much. What did you learn even the most recently from Coach Knight? And through some of the conversations, what did he pick up on from you as to how to continue to evolve as a coach? He was always learning, always willing to learn, and was willing to grow as a coach throughout those decades. What did y'all learn from each other? Yeah,
and that's the key to it. Just be willing to learn. I mean, from year to year, we change. Of course, basketball has changed through the years. If you keep up with it, that's from the pros down to the college and high school level. The style of basketball changes, and according to how we recruit, usually determines our style of play, and it works. It's worked many, many years for Coach Knight as well as, the time that I spent with him. And so, in the back of my mind, I love my ideas. I'm sure Coach Knight does as well. But, once we get those guys on the court and they're playing well one way, then we go with it. Sometimes it's my way. Sometimes it's my suggestions. And then, of course, Coach Knight, with his head coaching experience, he's seen a lot. He's been through a lot, both good and bad, and so he's able to make split decisions that, won us a bunch of games. And so I was just, in a situation where I was very, very blessed and lucky to be just an assistant for such a legendary guy. And with him, leaning on me in different situations, it demanded me to be prepared. And so I did a lot of film study. I did a lot of, backtracking on some of the opponents that we played and the coaches that have been at these different schools. And, just did a lot of studying and learning, and man, I tell you, it's a never ending process. But just the will to change and stick to it. It's fun, and I love everything about it.
Well, PJ, we are so excited for you, and we're excited to have another segment with you to talk a little bit more about this. I want to get your take on just your journey through community college basketball to play at William Carey in the first place. And how God has just kind of led you to this point, but then also to, how coaching really was found in your blood, how you realized that's what you wanted to do in arriving here. We'll get to that in just a little bit as we come back. We're talking to PJ McCray, new head men's basketball coach at William Carey, here on Crusader Talk. Stay with us.
You're listening to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, continuing on here on Crusader Talk as we welcome newly dubbed head coach PJ McCray to our show this evening. We kind of left off talking about, or saying that we were going to mention Coach's journey just to get to Carey in the first place as a player. Coach, I didn't realize this until the article got released about your upbringing over in Macomb, Mississippi. I'm a Brookhaven boy. Don't hold it against me. But to come from those ranks through Southwest Community College, how did you end up in the hands of Coach Knight and William Carey?
Well, it's a crazy story. It was unexpected. In fact, my time at Southwest, I knew absolutely nothing about William Carey. Just so happened I had a teammate, Chris London. He's an Alabama guy, and he told me he was taking a ride to Hattiesburg for an open tryout. So we made that trip twice. This was after our sophomore season over at Southwest. We made that trip twice, and I don't think either of us got notice from that tryout, but we both ended up at William Carey. In fact, we ended up being roommates.
Oh.
And it's just amazing. We never know what God's plan is, but putting our head down and working and preparing ourselves, we ended up right back on the same campus. So through that summer, this is immediately following that sophomore season. Coach Jeff Norwood, we started communicating. He reached out to me, and eventually he offered me a partial scholarship to come play, and I took it. I had a couple of walk-on opportunities elsewhere, but, it was nothing better than the conversations we had and talking to my parents, and he convinced us that William Carey was the place to be. And here it is, 15th, that was 2011, the summer of 2011, and here I am still here today.
That's awesome. Well, and truth be told, you started at William Carey as a coach just about a couple of years before I arrived on the scene doing public address. I've never known any different of you being around or not being around. But one thing that I was present for, at least to my knowledge, was your first game to be acting head coach for a full start-to-finish game, which was when Coach Knight in the SSAC tournament was diagnosed with COVID and was unable to make the trip to Montgomery. Now, a lot has changed from 2020, or I guess that was the 21 part of the season, till now. But how much do you feel like you have learned from coaching that side of the varsity side, that is, through that game and through the several times you've gotten to fill in now to where you're head coach?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from Coach Knight is that change is good. And just, again, just the will to adapt. You always have, 100 things going through your mind, and then you write something on paper and you want to stick with it for as long as possible. But if the scoreboard is not going in your favor, you got to figure something out in order to win that game. Not only that, but players, as hard as they work and as much as they put into the game, they don't always make the same shots. They don't always feel the same game by game, and so you have to make adjustments. Sometimes it's substitutions. Sometimes it's the defenses or maybe the ball screen defenses. Maybe it's the offense. Just whatever. It's a bunch of different things that we work on, both offense and defense, throughout a preseason. And I've just learned. I always thought that we did too much. I always thought that we did way too many different things. But we got to a point where it's been really, really important that we had all these different weapons in our arsenal, and it helped us to come out victorious a lot of times.
Coach, when you think about what it takes to be successful, you mentioned all the different weapons in your arsenal, so to speak. It takes great players, and that's why a philosophy that you've had is to get a high school player or two that you really see the upside, you're really projecting the upside, but you also bring in a lot of very seasoned JUCO products as well, or transfer players, typically upperclassmen that you have to just kind of really get pointed in the right direction and let them loose. They come in knowing how to play the game of basketball. And so in a sense, almost more of a managerial style of coaching rather than a developmental style. Yes, there's development, but boy, it's trying to mold these personalities and all of this talent when there's only one basketball. Talk about the philosophy of the program moving forward and how this is a program that what I witnessed was one in which the players thrived in that culture. Yeah.
Well, it's obviously still recruiting season. I feel like the first part of winning anything is winning any game is recruiting. You got to win the recruiting battles, and most of it, most of my style of recruiting is based off of what I've seen as a player. Bringing in guys that were ready to go, bringing in guys that were basically, physically developed and mentally developed, and I learned that it was a lot less that you had to coach. So this is my playing years, but also, as I got, the third and fourth year in the coaching, I seen that, Mississippi JUCO has a lot of guys that really don't go past JUCO. And so it worked. It worked early. It worked when, Jeff Norwood and Scotty Fletcher was out recruiting. And, it's just something that I picked up on, I continue to do. And it made practices, in the preseason pretty easy. It's a lot less that you have to coach. It's a lot less that you have to teach. It's more talking and every now and then motivating and just getting them out there. And, you'll have guys averaging anywhere from 12 to 15 points at these junior colleges. And they all come in, with their confidence and a swagger. And the only thing that we have to do, like you said, is just point them in the right direction, get them to buy into the program. And if we can mix in a couple of freshmen, a couple of younger guys, it just helps them. It helps mold them and show them how to really work and compete. And that's been really big for us. It's been rare that we've had to motivate guys to play hard in practice. It's just a matter of us making the right decisions when it comes to our lineups and our rotations and just also, some of the sets so that we can make sure we play into the favor of the strengths of the individuals.
Now, speaking of individuals, there are some key pieces in that locker room that I believe are huge fans of yours and were likely very excited when they found out that you were able to take the head coaching job moving forward. What has that response been like for you on behalf of the players?
Yeah, it's been nothing short of amazing. I mean, these guys, it's the whole year. It's been fun, nothing but positive energy. When it was just us focusing on preparing for the season, back in August and September, everybody just worked hard. We loved on each other and we laughed and we competed and we did a lot of different things. Unfortunately, Coach Knight missing because of his hip injury and surgery, it took him out of it a little bit. But the respect level was never lost. And so it just required me to be more hands-on with the guys, along with Coach Bird. And so, as time went on, my voice became way more important. And the respect, like I said, it was at a very high level because of the maturity of the guys that we recruited. Which again, we didn't know that Coach Knight would miss due to his injury. We didn't know, but it was just one of those things that, because of how we recruited it, it made it an easy situation to handle. And so now, with the announcement of Coach Knight's retirement, everybody was just hoping it would be me. And of course, they thought that I knew from the very beginning, but I was hoping and praying that it was me. And I know there was a lot of great candidates out there, maybe former players of Coach Knight, alumni of William Carey, and of course all the other guys all the other great coaches out there. But I had hoped that I had done enough to prove myself, not only for the past 10 years of coaching, but more specifically this past season, just being able to step in and have so much respect from the players. They made me look good by winning those games. I only had a little bit to do with that. It was mostly them, but I'm thankful for the opportunity. I thank God every day for just preparing me to be able to handle those situations. And again, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be named head coach.
PJ, we've got just a couple seconds left here. Just real quickly, as you embark upon this journey as head coach, I'm sure you have a couple things on your to-do list left to do. Give us a little peek behind the curtain as to what are the immediate couple things you've got to tackle before you get ready for the season.
Yeah, we got to finish up with recruiting. We're in a pretty good position right now. We have a couple of commits. We had one signed today. Hopefully we can get another tomorrow. But we'll be in full stride trying to get this roster filled out, as well as getting our schedule completed. So it'll be fun. It'll be everyday responsibilities that we'll have to take care of. But I'm looking forward to every single challenge, and I look forward to a lot of success here at William Carey.
Hey, the grind never stops, not even in the off season. Coach McCray, we are so excited for you and excited for the future of William Carey basketball. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. All right, he is PJ McCray joining us here on Crusader Talk, brand new head men's basketball coach at William Carey. We got to comment on some of that when we come back.
Oh, yeah.
We also have some remarks from Coach Wendy Hogue from softball and their stellar weekend. Leaders in the pack of the SSAC. Also break down baseball as they are one of not one, not two, but 4 teams that are tied for first place in the SSAC. Not alone, but Carey's got some favorable tiebreakers right now. We'll break that down for you coming up next as we continue on Crusader Talk.
You're tuned in to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, good conversation with Coach PJ McCray. Again, I'm excited for him. He's my neighbor. I've been around him for a while, both in just back in my days of public address and then play-by-play for a couple of different years at Carey. Just knowing how much he has embraced William Carey, the game of basketball, and his tutelage under Coach Knight, it's just exciting. It's always exciting when somebody you know, or at least you feel like you've been close to for a while, gets a big promotion. It's almost like you kind of feel an element of it as well. I almost feel like I got promoted a little bit, and I'm just so excited for him.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I think that's just kind of an ongoing theme for us in a lot of different circles, right? You've got Connor Griffin getting promoted. We all know
That's
Kevin.
True.
Kevin is someone that has been a work acquaintance of ours, a colleague for many, many years in the broadcasting profession. And then Pauline Love, just down the road, getting promoted to the Crimson Tide of Alabama. So there's just a lot of things happening. And the person who's put the most pressure on Coach, you can get this answer. Who's put the most pressure for success on PJ? Think about it. In the room, in the building.
In the building. I would guess Coach Knight, but no.
Coach Carriga.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
the success, not spoken pressure, just like, oh my gosh, he comes in and wins a tournament first year as a head coach. Good grief. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, she's put a ton of pressure on me. I got to go out and really be successful. But that shows that when the program's in place and you just continue, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you're able to keep some continuity, or in this case, a ton of continuity in the program, and you retain a big chunk of the roster, there should be high expectations. And if they can get some luck and stay healthy, and they could be extremely successful next year.
For real, they really can. And I'm going to take a page back to something that happened to me earlier this year and apply it to what's going on right now at William Carey. I had the pleasure of being a part of Mississippi State's road trip to Texas when they faced the Longhorns in basketball. I got to fill in for Neil over there. And I had never really been behind the curtain of a men's basketball team at the D1 level. And to see all of the personnel that are involved in making a program like that happen, especially here in the NIL era and all the other things you have going on, they had not just a head coach and 2 assistants, but they had a director of ops, they had strength and conditioning, they had player personnel,
academic.
Yeah, they had managers here. They had an academic person. Also, I mean, you had just about as many coaches as you had players.
Sure.
And I look at it, and you have a head coach that gets to focus on preparing for his game, getting all the film. Which there's somebody else that's in charge of film and scouting and stuff too. But he's got the main game plan together. He's getting all the words in his ear from his different coaches, but making the master plan. But he's a manager at that point. He is, looking and scouting the talent that he's given and helping make a game plan. Meanwhile, at the NAIA level, you've had 3 people. You've had Coach Knight, Bert, and PJ. And PJ doing a lot of the lifting there, especially in the recruiting end and conditioning.
And scouting.
Yeah, all the different things. And to make it all fall on one man's shoulders, one, to me, already proved PJ's worth as far as just his abilities. The ability to multitask, to hold different things at the same time, compartmentalize. This is a team that, let's be truthful. Coach Knight was the head coach. PJ did a lot to make that team what it was, both behind the scenes
Coach
and the
Knight would
recruiting.
say, sure.
And he would say that. You're correct. And that doesn't take away anything that Bert did either. But PJ did a lot of the legwork. This was a lot of PJ's guys, if you will, that
Coach
he was the main
Knight
recruiter.
trusted him
Exactly.
to build that roster.
Exactly. And you and I talked about it. It was never a question of PJ's ability to do a lot of the things that help make a team successful. It was going to be, what was his ability on game day? What was his coaching going to be like when he was at the end of the bench making all the calls on the court? And coming from a background of just being the JV coach, it's not a great resume builder. And that's nothing to do with Coach PJ's ability. It's just a matter of what talent comes in a JV form oftentimes compared to what goes to the JUCOs that they end up playing. And so you see the win-loss record of a junior varsity squad over the last handful of years, and you're like, does this guy have it? But then you get to see his grand audition this year in Coach Knight's absence for a section of the schedule, and he proved himself. And I think that more than anything really shined for Tracy English and really helped bolster PJ's resume into saying, yeah, this is the right guy for the job.
And I think you mentioned, him being on the end of the bench, but it's also when he goes to the other end of the bench. He had an ability to walk down to player XYZ who had just, thrown the ball into the bleachers and bricked 2 free throws and forgot to play and had gotten pulled out and was running on fumes and had mentally had a little meltdown and was able to go down to the end of the bench and say, okay, you ready to go back? Like, we need you back out there. Can you flush that and go? Or whatever, 1 or 2 things needed to be said. He had a unique way to deal with that. And I think that's going to serve him well. His ability as at relating to players is a strength.
Well, considering a lot of them, he was their first point of contact with William Carey when they likely found out the school existed, and then on into became a student and student athlete. And then to really connect with them at their level is huge. And I think a lot of that, it lends itself to, one, his journey, which was just 15 years ago, coming
we
through.
know how fast 15
coming through
years
college
goes.
And so a lot changes in college over the last 15 years, but at the same time, PJ kind of changed with it. Like, he grew through those years with the dawning of social media, kind of taking over the player craze back then, the early 2010s. He has seen, what players are like now, and is able to, like you said, connect on their level in a way that, and not to say anything that Coach Knight is old school and unable to connect with this generation, but there's a difference now in how some of these guys have to be coached compared to maybe the old ways.
I think some of PJ and Coach Knight's relationship, I think Coach Knight told me how he has mellowed throughout the years, big time. Now, that there were still moments where that fire was ignited this year, but I think that, in a small way, PJ was a part of that because Coach Knight, like we talked about, constantly willing to change, constantly willing to adapt, constantly willing to, and at the very latter stages of his incredibly successful run, was trusting a guy who he had full faith in PJ McCray, and Eric Bird, another guy who had full faith in, to take over. And when I tell you this team never skipped a beat this year, never skipped a beat.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into more conversations about Coach McCray, and we'll likely bring him back during our summer months as well. But I want to turn our attention to some of the live sports going on. We mentioned tennis at the top of the show about their SSAC regular season title, both the men and women, scoring that crown on the same day, Wednesday, against Loyola. But also baseball, I'm going to be honest, really pleasantly surprised me with their outing down in New Orleans. Showed up, and they were able to win a rubber match after let's first mention Matthew Davis. Oh, my goodness.
Electric.
This guy, we saw his bright spots a year ago. We saw a lot of ups and downs with Matthew in his first year coming from Arkansas Little Rock. And now you get to the point where he's in the second year at Cary. Ever since that opening day start against the Masters, and when he just kind of crumbled in the first outing of the year, he has just come back and gotten better and better with each and every game he's performed. Long outings, Cary's needed them. And I think mentally that has really pushed him through to say, hey, my team needs me because, let's face it, the bullpen hasn't really been what it's needed to be, just a little bit unreliable. And certain arms have been unavailable as well, just because that's what happens year in and year out. You're going to have guys that end up with an injury at some point. But Davis has really taken the Friday night on his shoulders and has said, I will carry all through to a 1-0 start to the weekend. And he did it again, going 8 2/3, almost had the complete game. He ended up giving up a pair of base runners, which that was the tying run potentially in scoring position. And Cary was able to get out of it and win the game 4-3. But then you drop the middle game in the shortened 7-inning contest. Hey, it happens. Just sometimes you have one bad inning and it kind of spoils the rest. But you come back for the final game of the weekend. And when you know it, just like Mobile, you go to extra innings. Dreaded extra innings. But Cary found out that maybe their bullpen wasn't quite as bad as some others that they encountered, because they were able to play 8 runs in the top of the 10th inning and win that final game. They ended up giving, I think, 1 run up to Loyola, but that's about it.
At top of the 11th.
Or was it top of the 11th? Was it
top
later?
Top of the 11th.
Oh, that's right. It was much later than just 10th.
Yes, and call of the entire weekend was when Cary finally recorded the third out in the top of the 11th. It was, and that's it. That's out number 3. Thank God. I mean, Loyola was so hyped up. They had the winning run at second base in the bottom of the 10th, and Gage Hennett Gage Hennett, who
Yes,
gets his first
Gage
win.
Hennett.
How about Gage Hennett?
Well, and he had his first appearance of his carry career back in the midweek.
Yes.
And, we were excited for him. We were like, we were finally going to get to see him. And in the weekend prior, we thought we might. And Carey was able to piece it together in the final game and win over Tennessee Southern and avoid having to use him. But we knew it was coming. We knew it was going to come. And he was recruited to Carey primarily as a pitcher. He's just got, usually too good of a bat or too good a defense to keep him out of that rotation. But he comes through late in the game, delivers what he needed to, and helped Carey on to victory and pick up a huge series win, which now puts them in a 4-way tie with Abraham Baldwin, Thomas, Loyola, and themselves for first place in the league. Carey holding a tiebreaker over ABAC and Loyola, with guess who to play this weekend? Thomas. Wouldn't you know it? It's like the script writers had this one pegged from the get-go. We'll talk about that series, but we'll also have a word from Coach Wendy Hogan, their big weekend taking down Mobile when we come back. This is Crusader Talk.
Talking everything William Carey University athletics. This is Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, final segment with you as we wrap things up. And Josh had a couple fun shutout games with William Carey taking down Mobile. Another walk-off for you. Do those get any, duller as they move on? Or do you just get bored of walk-off wins?
I don't ever get bored with buzzer beaters, walk-offs. I was like, Wendy, I could get used to this if these are in our favor every weekend. I'm enjoying this. 30-9 now.
That's crazy.
And 13-1 in the homestand. How about that?
Yeah. So in the words of the Mississippi Mass Choir, which, by the way, rest in peace, their lead singer on this song, but I'm not tired yet. Mama Moses. But great song. If you haven't seen that on YouTube, just go watch it. It's a great way to start your day. Just about, running the race with endurance, kind of like I was mentioned with PJ earlier. Just, been working for Jesus a long time, but I'm not tired yet.
I love it.
But anyway, Josh got to catch up with Coach Wendy Hogue earlier today and just kind of asked her about this big weekend and what it means for William Carey.
You can't really talk about this past weekend without talking about the weekend before that. And then all of the prior ones led up to that. The 2 weeks ago, we went into the weekend with an opportunity for some separation. We were tied with UT Southern for the lead. And Mobile was actually a game behind. So had we went 4-0 instead of 3-1, we'd have had a 1-game separation. But how unique of an opportunity to be in that same position. It was like we got a mulligan. It was like, okay, now you're going to, but the stakes are higher. It's going to be, your longtime rival. It's the other, a team that ranked ahead of you nationally. But we had the opportunity to do again what we had just had 7 days before. And the fact that we were able to do it was a lot of fun. It was the girls, they love it. They love a challenge. I think it displayed their grit. I think, again, the strength of our conference is just crazy with the talent there. And for the girls to come in and play those 2 games. And, man, how about our pitchers? 2 shutouts. And it wasn't because balls weren't put in play. They threw well, but our defense played well. We didn't play perfect. But we did play very purposeful. There was a purpose for everything we did. And how about, speaking of pitching, how about Jaden Sawyer? It was just really Chief Pitcher of the Week again. So that's kind of crazy. I think our staff has kind of got they got a target on their back, and I think that they're proud to wear that target. I know the team is.
Yeah, you've talked all year about the all-in mentality of this team, and as this offense in particular has continued to evolve, it seems like from week to week, whatever the team is putting in the work on, an opportunity to execute presents itself that following game or that following weekend. And that's got to be a joy for you and the coaching staff to be able to see the fruits of your labor come to fruition so quickly.
Yes, anytime you have an opportunity for growth, and we have those every day, but to see that growth, to see that ceiling just keep getting higher and higher, and the team just continue to step up. That is, it's very. I can't even come up with a word to describe how exciting, how proud I am of the girls. And it's not a mean, nasty, prideful kind of, a selfish pride, but I'm just so proud because I know the work that they've put into it. And I know that, just seeing their efforts for respecting the game being rewarded, that feels good to be able to see that. We put in this past weekend, we were able to, we did something, Josh, called primetime at bats in the practice Thursday before Friday's game. And it was something that Craig and I did, 15 years ago when I was here, we did it. He tried it after I left. It didn't work. I tried it at Southern Miss. It wasn't a big hit, but it worked really well those last few years with us. So we brought it back, and just in a nutshell, that's where we draw a name, and a kid on the team has to have a prime time at bat. All eyes are on her. They they go against one of our pitchers, and if the pitcher wins, we're going to lose that game because we go in prime time at bat. We go into it and we're the team, the offensive team. So Liz Cross was actually the name that was called for that was drawn for the prime time at bat. Which was crazy because Liz was 0 for 8 last weekend, and she had, I think she was like 1 for 12 her last 12 at bats, and she was kind of hanging her head. And I just remember after she made the out and maybe the 5th inning, I just looked at her across the field and nudged her to keep that head up, and that her time we were going to need her, and then for her to lead off and get the hit. After the prime time at bat, and then for the next two to be slap bunch, which was something that the girls have learned recently, and to put that in play, it was very rewarding to see things that that we had done recently come into play, and we came out on top.
And that was Coach Wendy Ho joining Josh earlier today. Well, big weekend for them as they are 2 games ahead in first place in the SSAC. As I mentioned, the guys in baseball are in a 4-way tie for first place. Baseball's got a game coming up tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Milton Wheeler Field against Talladega. Good team out of the HBCU Athletic Conference. Also got a tennis conference championship coming up later this week. Men's golf, Robert Trent Jones, Cambrian Ridge for the SSAC tournament. And then on the weekend, softball, another task ahead at Blue Mountain. Guys in men's baseball are going to be at Thomas, and softball will finish up their weekend at Tennessee Southern for the 2-site road swing. Well, quick show for us today. Appreciate Coach P.J. McCray joining us. For Dalton Stanford and Josh West, I'm Caleb Hamill. Until next time, good night, God bless, and go Satyrs.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.